Number 2 tape recorder talking to number 1 tape recorder. Want to be sure I get it. Kings of Comedy, Chapter 5. You got that, Dawn? Chapter 5. With Curly's retirement in 1947, the Three Stooges faced a new crisis.
Telegram from Mr. Allen.
Telegram? Oh, thank you, sweetheart. Hold the tape recorders. Wait just a minute. What's it say? 4 desperate members of the Malabese Liberation Army are holding the Turkish ambassador hostage. They have one non-negotiable demand. They want to speak to Steve Allen. Signed, T. Felt. Okay. Hello, operator? Get me turkey. And while you're at it, get some for yourself. Just a second, Bob. Hello? Wow. Is this the Malabese Liberation Army? Actually? It is? Well, I have one thing to say to you guys. Schmuck, schmuck!
30 seconds to air.
30 seconds to air? Okay, fine. Bob, just a second. I'll tell you what. I'm sorry, operator. I was talking to somebody else. Wait a minute. Tell Dave to go out and do a joke about, any little thing, the destruction of the universe. Right. Something like that. And then tell him to go to the desk and waste some time with letters from viewers, do a commercial, and then introduce me. Well, I'll finish this tune. Okay, cue the theme. I'm coming out. David?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Paul. Welcome back to Woodstock, ladies and gentlemen. What fun we're having. My first guest, a fine composer, a musician, actor, author, and a pioneer in the type of television we're doing now, it says here. Please welcome Steve Allen. Nice to see you, sir.
Thank you. It's nice to be seen.
Thank you very much for being here. I certainly appreciate it. This time slot is now an hour later than the one that you started in, isn't it?
So it would appear, yes.
What I meant by that was the original Tonight Show came on here at 11:30.
Yes, live. As a matter of fact, at one point we were starting at 11:15 because it had been a local show before it was a network show, and we still had to do 50 minutes of that and then the 90 minutes, which adds up to a lot of minutes.
Now, what did you do before the Tonight Show? How did you get the job?
I had done essentially the same sort of things on CBS for 3 or 4 years, and for CBS in radio in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm. Now, what was occupying that space before the Tonight Show came on?
There was a show called Broadway Open House, and before that, I don't know. I wasn't in New York before that.
Mm-hmm. And what kinds of things were you doing? Because everybody says to you, Steve Allen is the one who started this particular form.
That's just because I did it first.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously. If you had done it first, you would have done that same kind of stuff.
But what were you doing? You had a...
Sort of like what you do here. I would go out with the studio audience with a hand mic sometimes and talk to people. I would read letters, as you just did, from... as a matter of fact, you're under arrest. No, it would... Sometimes, seriously, people say, hey, you did that stuff, and then other people did. It was actually because I was there first, because I think everybody would have gotten around to the same general kinds of things on this loose show.
Mm-hmm. And we have some press releases that I inadvertently left in my office. Oh, here they are now. Speaking of inadvertent.
Press releases of what?
Hot off the press. About the original Tonight Show, and I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about the show. First here makes reference to your band leader, Skitch Henderson.
Yes.
And it said that he had grown a beard that became a fad among college boys, and they called their beards Skitchers.
That has never previously been brought to my attention, but I have no reason to contest the...
Talk about being under arrest. Also, Gene Rayburn had hepatitis.
Yes, I recall that.
Yeah, he's better now. But he says that on page 2. But he did the weather.
Yes, I must explain that. The show was an enormous hit during its first year, during which, I repeat, it was a local program. It was a smash. And because it was a smash, the NBC people said, we must put this fine program on the network. So I said, fine, who's going to stop you? And then they said, however, we think we should make a few changes. And I said, changes in a hit? And they said, yes. I said, what do you have in mind? Because you should always keep your mind open. Mm-hmm. Now, the show was 90 minutes of rip-roaring comedy, right? And that's why they wanted to put it on the network. So they said, well, we thought a nice weather report. That's true. I said, you mean a musical weather report, a musical report with naked women, something?
Yeah, yeah.
And they said, no, just a straight weather report.
That's so strange.
Yeah, and believe it or not, for a few weeks, they actually had a weather report which would stop everything in its tracks.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And then they finally got embarrassed and stopped that.
So you were actually lucky that Rayburn came down with hepatitis.
Yeah, in the long run, it turned out that. They had another thing they insisted on having was ski condition reports.
Yeah.
Now, not even today very many Americans ski, statistically speaking. And in 1954, there were about 9 skiers in the whole country.
Yeah. It's valuable for places like Oklahoma, Kansas, that
right.
area. We're going to interrupt here, and perhaps we'll be back.
With a
I'm
ski
more than
report.
positive. Yeah, with a ski report. Hi, and welcome back to the proceedings. You, of course, know Mr. Steve Allen. Before we go on, do we have some fascinating footage from one of your other old shows? You're the only guest who has ever brought his own noisemakers, and I certainly appreciate that.
Well, the least I can do. As a matter of fact, there are more here than noisemakers. I do impressions. I don't know if that's ever been brought to your attention.
No, it has not.
Would you like to see one?
I certainly would.
All right. That will require a close-up of the table surface in this area. And as soon as I see a close-up, I'll go into my first impression, ladies and gentlemen. You ready? Okay. My impression of Claude Rains in The Invisible Man, ladies and gentlemen.
That's amazing. Truly amazing. Now, do you actually, as a grown human adult, do you travel with these things?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Do you pull them out in other occasions?
Rarely, but there was a reason, a rationale of why we did that originally. I happened to be present when television first started to get dirty. Television now is dirty.
Uh-huh.
Occasionally there's a little clean stuff on it, but not too often. And when I first noticed that happening, I thought, I must take a position against this. You must fight the whatever.
Fight the filth.
Yeah, so that's good.
Thank you.
Fight the filth. So anyway, I had a police whistle at one time, but a policeman stole it, which is another problem. And then when anybody would say anything off color, I'd go, here now.
That's right.
And if something was really raunchy, I would lay a little on them.
Yeah, yeah.
But that sounded like I was approving it, so that didn't work out too well.
Well, it's wonderful work, and I'm proud to be associated with the man who's doing it. Now, your other, the show that I, of course, remember and am still a large fan of, and as I told you, I spent a lot of my day watching old videotapes of this, was a show done for Westinghouse and syndicated all over the United
62,
States.
63, 64, yes.
And the thing that caused, to this day, you say the most comment and discussion is you getting into a vat of...
Yes, it's weird when I am accosted by young men in the street. I am frequently accosted by young men. Not, unfortunately, very few young women. But they very often bring up the night that I jumped into Jell-O or the night I was covered with tea bags and was dumped into a big vat of hot water.
Right, and we have the Jell-O epic here on videotape. Take a look at the monitors. Mr. Steve Allen, fully suited.
This does not require talent. This is just embarrassing. Howdy. Thank you very much. Good evening. Well, as those of you know who have been watching the show for the last year or so, we have done a lot of peculiar stunts on the program at one time or another, but I think tonight we're going to top them all, and this may be the last one we'll ever do, too. You see here what the gang has whipped up for me tonight. I guess everybody has always wondered what it would feel like to jump into a pool full of gelatin, right? I don't want to go in. I want my mommy. And all the big boys jump in. I want to go home and go to bed. I don't want to go in. your face to the front. And hand in your notice at the back, too. I'll try to go under, but I don't know if I can. Hey!
Truly a great moment in American broadcasting. We'll be right back with Steve Allen. Hi there. Not only did you jump into the Jell-O, I thought the suit was a nice touch.
That was what we used to call my Hong Kong suit. I had bought some cheap suits in Hong Kong, nice but cheap, and I knew I was in trouble physically when they would come to the dressing room before the show and say, put on a Hong Kong suit.
Yeah,
that meant I was going to be covered with chocolate sauce or something.
It's amazing. It looks like it must have been disgusting.
It was truly revolting.
Yeah.
Or icky, as we say.
And we do say icky, and we have to pause here for station identification. We'll be back to say many, many more things. Hi there. Welcome back to the show, or extravaganza, as it's rapidly becoming known, Steve Allen. Now, as an adult, well, you were an adult then, but would you be jumping into Jell-O these days?
I would not consider it beneath my dignity. Anything for a laugh is my motto.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah. What can I tell you? No, I don't know. There must be something that would be beneath my dignity. But there is a separate part of me that is basically Jell-O jumping something.
Yeah, there's something about watching you jump into a vat of Jell-O that makes it seem okay. Whereas I can think of other folks getting into Jell-O and you'd go, oh, this is cartoon time.
It's too silly if Jerry Lewis jumped into Jell-O, you mean?
Right.
Yeah. I see what you
Or
mean.
Rosalind Carter, even, it wouldn't work. And she used to be one of the best.
That's true. But it's my Eric Severide side that makes it seem inappropriate for me to be jumping into Jell-O, and hence...
Now,
I'm sorry.
This is going to be one of the most awkward transitions anyone has ever made in North American television, but I'm going to do it nonetheless. This book that you have recently authored, Beloved Son, A Story of the Jesus Cults. What can you tell us of this work?
Well, I can tell you it's for sale. In bookstores all across...
Cut that out.
all across this great land of ours, as you were saying. No, it is a serious book, although there are some laughs in it, largely because I relate some of the amusing things that my son Brian, who is now an adult of 35, said when he was growing up. He used to say funny things. And about 11 years ago, seriously, I got a letter from my son telling me that he had changed his name and had joined a religious community and was turning his back on the world, which we assumed meant us, and at that time, which did. So the book is the story of the last 11 years of our relationship and how it has evolved. And then I draw back and take a broader view of many of the religious cults, as they're called.
Now, this was a common experience for a lot of people, and may still be.
It still is, yes. Thousands of families are affected. Brian's group happens to be a rather small one, only maybe 250 or 300 people, but there are large groups, the Scientologists, the Hare Krishna, the Moonies, and so forth, Children of God.
Yeah, and that must have been a devastation for you at the time, huh?
Well, the part of it that hurt was his, as I say, saying goodbye to us, and apparently permanently, although that turned out not to be the case, fortunately. We took no real exception on principle to his religious conversion. We are a Christian family ourselves, and we knew nothing about his religion, so we could be neither for it or against it in the early stages. But it's too long to go into here. But anyway, that's what the book deals with.
Yeah, okay. And you're at Michael's Pub in New York City for anyone planning a vacation.
Yes, for those of you who do. Well, actually, there's no sense plugging that. I don't think you can get in. I'm only there for 3 more nights and they're sold out. But it's been more fun than I've had doing anything in a long time.
Terrific.
Just playing jazz and having a lot of fun.
Fist fights, a lot of drinking?
Oh, yeah. Several people pass out cold in the men's room every night. Great fun.
I'm always excited to be with you anywhere, and I appreciate you being here with us tonight.
My pleasure.
And if you want to hang around, we're going to introduce a brand new hot property here for NBC, if I can find the correct card. I guess I have it right here. When you work in television, people always say to you, you ought to do a show about where I work. Boy, the crazy things that go on down there. With that in mind, we went down to the NBC mailroom here in the RCA building on the second floor to put together a promo for a show that might just be able to pull NBC out of its mid-season ratings slump.
If you like the police department antics of Barney Miller and the newspaper world intrigue of Lou Grant, you're in for a real treat this fall when you meet the wacky bunch on Mailroom. You'll meet Jim, the manager of the entire mailroom.
I'm the manager of the entire mailroom.
And Rose, who's always up to something.
Someone could be looking for a letter, and you have to search for it, or somebody might be looking for some package that came in.
And Frank, a mailroom veteran who knows the city like a book.
I live in the city, so I know the city like a book.
That's right, the fun begins when Jim, a likable young newcomer, joins the staff.
It's my first week here. I wrote a song about it this week, too.
Oh, you did?
Yeah?
Too bad we don't have time for it, but there'll be plenty of time each week on Mailroom.
You gotta start somewhere. You gotta start sometime. You gotta start somewhere, sometime. So I'm starting out in the mailroom.
We fool around. I mean, this is not a, I have to take the job real serious.
Gonna work my way from the bottom to the top. Yes, I'm starting out in the mailroom.
Yes, we think you're going to like life at the bottom with this kooky bunch on Mailroom.
Oh, everybody's really good. I really like everybody.
There's never a dull moment and plenty of romance.
No, I'm a married guy. I don't want to get in no trouble.
We had a wild guy who had wild hair. You're like a caveman. That's about the most exciting thing that happened in the mailroom so far.
Talk about excitement on the NBC hit series Mailroom.
Actually, this is not my job. I'm too short for this.
Got any stamps left over?
And you know, once I get started, I won't stop.
And neither will the laughs on Mailroom, cause everybody's funny.
There's nobody actually funny. Everybody just got a good sense of humor.
That's Mailroom, Mondays at 9, right after Little House.
This is
My, mark that down in your TV guides. We'll be right back with filmmaker Howard Smith.